While little Bella Westwood was busy attending her prom and sharing kisses with her former elementary school bully, Kendra Smith, our heir Rosalie Bastianich was fulfilling a promise. She had told her summer guest Kimmy back in Brightchester that she would show her around various parts of Windenburg and its neighbouring cities. She showed her around the club scene, and now it was time to show her the more tame countryside. They would start with a brisk walk, gossiping and chatting their hearts away, before making their way to a local coffee shop Rosalie had always wanted to try, and it looked like it was packed to full capacity. Kimmy had so much fun exploring the town with Rosalie today, and she just couldn't wait to pop Rosalie's Rave cherry tonight. She couldn't believe she's never been to one, considering she loves to party just as much as Kimmy does. Rosalie had never even heard of a rave before until Kimmy told her about it earlier today. She was really excited about it as well, and had the perfect slutty outfit in mind. Kimmy was very experienced when it came to raves. She told Rosalie what to expect, what the vibe is like, and the location they were going to. It was completely underground, though she did want to make one last stop before they go back home for a few extra supplies she needed. They ended up at the Von Hunt estate, taking a moment to soak in the pretty chalet gardens. That's when Rosalie saw the lonesome wedding arch overlooking the waterfall at the back of the gardens. Suddenly, this feeling of extreme sadness washed over her. She was beginning to miss Finley. She hadn't seen her best friend since they were in Brightchester, but she was afraid of what would happen if she did see him again. Kimmy noticed Rosalie's sudden sullen attitude, walking over to her to ask her what was wrong, and that was when Rosalie broke down crying on Kimmy's shoulder. She knew that she was being a nuisance. She knew that Kimmy was probably so tired of hearing her talk about this. She knew she sounded pathetic, but she still had no idea what to do about Finley and the engagement. They were supposed to start their wedding planning this summer. She's expected to be looking at dresses and for a wedding location. It's every girl's dream, marrying her Prince Charming, but it all felt like such a nightmare. Kimmy told Rosalie she'd never get tired of listening to her. She was here for her. That's what friends are for. But she had to be stern with Rosalie now. Enough is enough. She needs to tell Finley the truth. He swears that he's in love with her, right? Then Finley will take it like a man when Rosalie tells him that she's not ready for marriage. And if he dumps her for it, that means that he never truly loved her and that he's just a boy, not a man. She needs to put herself first, starting now, because she will be nothing but miserable if she forces herself into a marriage for the sake of Finley's feelings. Tonight, they will let loose and go wild. She will help Rosalie melt her troubles away. But tomorrow, she is going to meet with Finley and tell him that she isn't ready for marriage. Rosalie knew that Kimmy was right and that she needed that reality check badly. Though she was terrified of losing Finley, she agreed to Kimmy's terms. Tomorrow, after the rave, she will tell Finley the truth about everything. Good, Kimmy said. She was glad they finally solved that issue together. Now she needed to wipe up her tears because they were expecting company. Expecting company? Rosalie asked. What company? Kimmy was surprised Rosalie hadn't picked up on why they were alone with each other in a desolate garden. They were meeting up with Kimmy's dealer, Max. A dealer? Rosalie thought. Kimmy's buying medications for tonight. And just in that moment, Rosalie saw a shadowy figure emerge from the darkness. It must be Kimmy's dealer. And for some reason, Rosalie felt like she'd seen him somewhere before. That's when Kimmy helped Rosalie make the connection. Rosalie, meet Max, and Max, meet Rosalie. Wait a fucking second. Max, as in Maximilian Fontaine, the college frat guy that hosted the spooky day party Rosalie went to as a teenager, and the dude she and Finley ran into on Love Day, and the dude that Finley hates with a burning, fiery passion. Yes, it was, in fact, Maximilian Fontaine. Rosalie couldn't help but comment on how drastically different Max looked since the last time she saw him all those months ago. Max explained that prior to his recent college graduation, his dad basically forced him to make himself look more professional if he once into the family business, so he had to change his hair and style. Kimmy was dumbfounded finding out the two know each other. What a small world. He asked Rosalie if she was still with that guy she was dancing with on Love Day. He did not seem happy that the two of them were talking. Rosalie confirmed that the two of them were in fact still together, but they weren't boyfriend and girlfriend. She also wanted to apologize for his behavior. He means well, but he's protective. Maximilian thought it was funny. He could definitely tell from those few interactions that Finley was the jealous type, but he couldn't necessarily blame him. If he had a chick as hot as Rosalie, he'd be overly protective too. Kimmy went on to explain that she and Max have known each other since she was a sophomore in high school. He was her college-age giggle bush dealer, along with other things. They would hook up all the time, right, Max? He had to give it to Kimmy. Her super soaker always has him coming back for more, okay? Rosalie had enough, but she was wondering why Max was dealing medications when he's already well off and has a job right out of college. It's because his dad is super strict and limits his access to his trust. You make one felonious mistake when you're in your first term of university, and suddenly you're not financially responsible anymore. Ridiculous. So, yeah, that's the main reason why he deals. He needs money to party and buy nice things. Plus, it's a good way to meet hot girls, ones like Kimmy and, well, herself. Kimmy told Max that Rosalie wasn't buying anything. In fact, she was super pissed when she found out about it, and Rosalie decided to stop Kimmy right there. Perhaps she was too rash about the whole thing. She wants to have fun at this rave, and she needs to relieve some stress anyways. What was he selling? Maximilian offered his friend Lucy to Rosalie and Kimmy. It's top-tier shit, Max promised the both of them. They would feel euphoric from head to toe. Kimmy loved the sound of that, but she was wondering if Max would be willing to offer her a discount if she were to give him something in exchange. She cannot be serious, Rosalie thought. But this is Kimberly Petty we're talking about. Of course she's serious. Max made sure to thank Rosalie for her purchase and hoped to see her again soon before heading with Kimmy inside the garden's maze. And Kimmy promised Rosalie that she'd be quick. With Max, it never takes long. Kimmy and her shenanigans, Rosalie thought. She would deal with waiting here in the spooky gardens by herself, because now she was so much more excited to go to tonight's rave. Eventually, the unholy duo made their way back home to Windenburg to start getting ready for the rave. Kimmy was right. It hadn't taken long with Max. She walked out of the maze within like 5 minutes. Anyways, Rosalie was doing everything she could to look her very best, using a hydrating face mask to give her that glass skin, spraying on her best perfume, and giving herself the pep talk she needed in order to take those medications later. She was a bit nervous to do it. She'd never done anything like that before, but she trusted Kimmy, knowing she'd never give her anything that could hurt her. And right as she was finally starting to relax, she received a text from the one person she'd forgotten about for a little while. Finley broke. He was getting anxious to see her, asking if he could come over tonight. This was probably the longest time they'd ever spent apart from one another, and it was clear he missed her. She really didn't want to do this again, but she had to lie to him. Rosalie hadn't told him about the rave or the medications and wasn't sure if he would be on board with any of it. So she told him she had food poisoning. She felt terrible about it, but she promised herself that this was the last time. Tomorrow, the whole truth will be known to him. Rosalie and Kimmy were both ready to head on over to the rave, Kimmy just dying to dance her heart away, and Rosalie feeling sexy as ever. But before leaving, they just had to show our founder Gwyneth Westwood their outfits. She loved them both so much, hoping the two of them would have fun and be safe, and that Rosalie doesn't accidentally knock somebody on the ground with those thangs. Such a supportive mom. We love to see it. She chose Thought Daughter for sure, and with that, they were off, promising to keep their phones on all night, cover their drinks, and to stay away from medications. Well, I think we know which of those promises they'll be breaking tonight. A hop, skip, and jump later, Rosalie and Kimmy arrived to the rave location, it being completely underground and hidden beneath the trees like Kimmy promised. Rosalie was so nervous, but ultimately excited as can be. Tonight would be so fun. Kimmy was glad to hear it. Her goal was for Rosalie to have a good time and to get wicked with at least 3 strangers tonight. Wow, she really is something else, Rosalie thought. And now it was time to finally party with Lucy, the both of them placing the tabs on their tongues and letting it dissolve. There was no going back now. Rosalie was officially ready to head down and get on with the celebrations. She thought the location was so cool, but it was really odd how it was right next to a cemetery of all places. She'd never even heard of Forgotten Hollow before. Rosalie's heart started racing as she and Kimmy approached the stairwell, the sound of club music penetrating the air. She began to hear the chatter amongst partygoers, to see the smoke from hookers rise up into the night sky, and to smell the sweet artificial scent from the fog machines. The rave location was lit up like a Roman candle, fluorescents and strobe lights beaming across every corner of every room, confetti covering every inch of the floor. And she was surprised to see that the dance floor was already packed. As she looked at the fellow partygoers, Rosalie began to feel underdressed. Girl, now you're starting to feel underdressed. Well, no, not like that. Like her outfit wasn't creative enough. All she did was slap on some lingerie. She was so drawn to the colors and the music and the way in which Sims were dancing. And that's when Rosalie realized she felt a bit funny. Oh shit, she thought. She totally forgot about Lucy. Wait a second. Had Kimmy been talking to her this entire time? Kimmy asked Rosalie if she felt it yet, because she was starting to. Rosalie was unsure if she actually responded with her words, but she thinks she said yes. She must have, because right after, her hands were intertwined with Kimmy's, and she was being led to the dance floor. The red-headed besties, both high as kites, started dancing with each other, Kimmy constantly reassuring Rosalie and asking if she was okay. She knew this was her first time, for both attending a rave and partying with Lucy, and she wanted to make sure she wasn't having a bad trip. As far as Rosalie could tell, she was fine. A bit sweaty and overwhelmed by the music and colors, but nothing she couldn't handle. Kimmy said she really loved Rosalie's outfit, that being on Lucy made her realize how pretty she really is. And it must have been in that moment when Rosalie's trip really started, because out of nowhere, she began to dance like it was her last night alive. Kimmy felt like it was a fine time now to leave Rosalie alone for a bit so she could get them drinks. She wasn't even sure if Rosalie noticed she left. She brought the both of them back some gin and tonics. Rosalie was really fucking feeling it now. It was something she couldn't describe, but oh my god, was it amazing. Maximilian wasn't messing around. She tried her hardest to concentrate on whatever the hell Kimmy was saying to her, but she ultimately succumbed to the music penetrating every nerve and fold in her brain, and the smell of various perfumes and shitty cologne and blue raz ice in the air. And all she wanted to do was love, and be loved, and make love. How fucking amazing would it feel to have Finley right now? It was so beautiful to imagine. Just like everything was. Everything was so goddamn beautiful.
Like from Dope, Steve.
What the fuck just happened? Why did Rosalie see him again? Rosalie didn't want to ruin Kimmy's fun because, trust me, Kimmy was having a lot of fun. So she haphazardly walked to the bar alone, and that's when Kimmy was approached by a fellow University of Bright Chester student who, of course, she had previously licked top to bottom like a lollipop. Is there anyone in this save file you haven't woohooed with, Miss Petty? Liberty was definitely gone, asking if Kimmy was down to hang out with her friend Molly. She had some extras. Candy flipping is some seriously risky shit, but Kimmy was nothing but experienced. Besides, there was nothing she loved more than having two girls inside her. Anyways, after getting lost several times, Rosalie eventually found the bar, and bad thoughts were turning in her mind. But then she noticed the guy on her right eyeing her non-stop. He introduced himself, Rosalie learning his name was Ray Patel. Though he was obviously older, she thought he was kinda cute. Her high ass felt a random urge to sing, Ray joining in on her excitement by throwing confetti in the air. Right around that time was when Kimmy reunited with Rosalie, Ray instantly becoming smitten with her. What the fuck is up with her eyes? Rosalie pondered. Did my eyes look like that too? Ray and Kimmy began flirting with each other, completely acting like Rosalie wasn't even there. Seeing the two flirt made her feel so shitty. She was happy to see that Kimmy was building up her woohoo roster for tonight or whatever, but damn, did she miss feeling loved by Finley. She knew he still loved her, and that she loved him. But it's just not the same with the weight of the wedding on her shoulders. She missed how it was before, juvenile and carefree, when she wasn't actively stressing and lying and avoiding him. Being with Lucy really wasn't fucking helping right now. She was sinking so much deeper into her feels, worrying she was on the verge of a panic attack. Rosalie went ahead and asked Kimmy what was making her pupils so dilated. Kimmy explained how she ran into an old woohoo buddy from Brightchester named Liberty, and she offered Kimmy to party with Molly. Now then, since that's been explained, Kimmy wasted no time. I guess we can mark one conquest off her to-do list. Rosalie knew what Kimmy wanted to do next, so she agreed to go with her in the bathroom and wait in a neighbouring stall while her and Ray finished. But this was when Rosalie was approaching her breaking point. It wasn't about Kimmy. It wasn't about Ray. It wasn't even about Finley. It was all about herself. What the fuck was she doing? Why was she at some trashy rave doing medications, wearing practically no clothes and mad that strangers don't want to flirt with her, as if she wasn't an engaged woman? This wasn't her. She was so confused. Why, just why was she like this? Why was she acting like she has the worst life imaginable, the most unfixable problems, when she is the one purposely making a mess of everything? And why, God, why was she thinking about her dad again? She would do anything, absolutely anything, to not feel like this. She would do anything to not feel at all. It was a dumb idea, but perhaps... She left the bathroom right as Ray and Kimmy were really getting into it, looking for Kimmy's old woohoo buddy on the dance floor. That's when she saw a girl in blue dancing her heart out. She did look familiar. Rosalie politely went up to her and asked if her name was Liberty. Thanks to Rosalie's good manners trait, she and Liberty became acquainted almost too quickly. She mentioned how she offered their mutual friend Kimberly Petty something earlier, Rosalie working her way up to ask her if she had any extra, and was she in luck? So, right as Kimmy and Ray were back out on the dance floor, Rosalie walked a few feet away from them and turned herself around so Kimmy couldn't see what she was doing. Lucy had introduced herself a long time ago, but she was nowhere as strong as Rosalie hoped. She was still functioning and thinking about the past. She prayed for it to go away, just for tonight. So she went back to the bar, sipping on a few beers, doing her best to get drunk as fast as she could. Seems like her mood was pretty obvious to some fellow partygoers, one of them approaching her as she sipped on her beer alone. His name was Shane Jung, and he'd noticed her when she was with her friend on the dance floor. He liked her moves. "It seems like something's upsetting you," Shane said. Well, she just had so many first world issues. Her fiancé is overwhelming her. She was thinking about her alcoholic father again, and she didn't even know what her sexuality was. She was suddenly so vulnerable, so talkative, and it was hurting her jaw. Is that her friend Molly showing up? Shane said that it sounded like she was going through a lot, but if she wanted, he could help her forget about it for a while. And what did Rosalie do with that offer? She accepted it. She knew it was wrong to be sitting here with a random guy and accepting his romantic advances, all while being an engaged woman. But this feeling that he was giving her, love, even if it wasn't real, and they were both so incredibly high out of their minds, was finally making her forget about all the things troubling her. Her fucking fiancé. She loved him and all, but God, what was wrong with him? Proposing when they were freshly young adults? Was he out of his mind? She didn't understand why he was in such a rush to marry her. They have so much time. They hadn't even lived their lives yet. How is he sure that he wanted to be with her forever? You know, sometimes she hated him for it. Sometimes she wasn't even sure when it came to him. Sometimes she wishes she could go back to being single, or to a different dimension where Finley kept his feelings in the dark, and they could have stayed best friends forever. Wait a second. Did she just say that out loud? Shane didn't mind hearing Rosalie ramble, but what he really wanted to do was see her dance. He told her that she needed to stop talking about Finnegan or whatever. It was just the two of them now. What happens tonight can be their little secret. Phineas never has to know, and Rosalie was liking how that sounded. So, with her friend Molly penetrating every fiber of her being at full force now, she sensually danced with Shane on the dance floor, pretending she wasn't Rosalie Bastianich, an engaged woman, and that Finley Broke didn't exist, and that it was just her and Shane, two strangers living it up and sharing a good time. What's the harm in dancing? What's the harm in having him grab her waist, or him pulling their sweaty bodies closer together, or him making woohoo-me eyes at her? What's the harm in a little kiss? Broke began screaming at Rosalie, making a scene, calling her all sorts of names, asking her what the hell was she doing. Rosalie, embarrassed, confused, scared, and high as a kite, did the only thing she could think of to escape Easton's wrath. Rosalie had no idea where she was going, but all she knew was that she needed to get out of here, now. Will Were the walls closing in? Was that laughter she was hearing? Was Easton hunting her down? Was he going to tell Finley? Where's Kimmy? Where the fuck is Kimmy? Well, that answered her question. Finally, she found the stairway leading to the outside world. She was practically naked, and it was so cold, but she couldn't think about that right now. She needed to hide. Maybe Easton wasn't actually chasing her. Maybe it was just the medications. But she wasn't willing to find out, her staying as quiet as a mouse and doing everything possible to hold back the tears, begging to release themselves from her eyes. Maybe that wasn't Easton's angry footsteps she was hearing. Maybe that wasn't him calling her a whore. Maybe this was all just a vivid dream. More like nightmare, and she wasn't really here. Maybe this was just a really, really bad trip, and she made the terrible mistake of candy flipping. Silence. Pure silence. It was almost deafening. She was so exhausted from all the running. She can't go back there. Maybe there was somewhere she could wait. A creepy, old, abandoned cemetery wouldn't be the first choice of many, but at least it had benches. Rosalie knew it was over for her. She was sure Easton seeing her grind on a guy that wasn't his brother wasn't something she imagined, and that he would tell Finley the second he saw him again. Finley was going to dump her, but at least she could read the epitaphs scattered about the cemetery and forget about it for just a bit. This place was so ancient, so desolate. Marianne Williamson, Eric Darling, and she noticed a single unmarked grave. As high as she was, she knew being left unmarked was a tragic fate. Poor soul. But none of these forgotten souls could truly distract her from the problem she was facing. More and more every day, Rosalie was baffled with herself and her behaviour. Growing up, all she ever wanted was for her mum Gwyneth and dad Joseph to have a healthy relationship. She wanted to see them finally tie the knot and live happily ever after with one another. Then, once she realised that dream was shot, she wanted a healthy high school relationship of her very own. Finally, she got her wish, getting involved with the sweetest, most loving young man she'd ever known. Her childhood best friend, Finley, broke. And here she was, still unsatisfied, still complicating things, still fucking up her own life. What was it that she was missing? Why can absolutely nothing make her happy? She had seriously almost cheated on Finley. And for what? What did he do to deserve that? You know, maybe it will be good to tell him her true feelings about the engagement. Perhaps he'll dump her and save himself from a future of pain. She didn't deserve him, clearly. Perhaps she should sleep on it. Maybe then Kimmy would find her, and the medications will be out of her system, and all will be clear to her. Rosalie woke up a few hours later, feeling herself beginning to come down, meaning it was safe for her to see if Kimmy was still at the rave. But that's when she heard what sounded like someone whispering her name. Just the drugs. It's just the drugs. It's just the drugs.